Hey TD Superheroes, I'm Alejandro Perez, your sidekick, and in this video we are going to be looking at tab layouts inside of Maya for our UIs. So right now I have the skeleton window for our face rig set up. Then I also have this selection window that we created. I did expand on it a little bit. It's just creating more. I think we just created the first two in the video. I just expanded it to the other geometry that I know that I'd want to connect. Then I also have this layout that we've been using to start building everything. At this point, I kind of like this layout the best, so this versus this one. So I'm gonna kind of build it off of this window and then add these elements into this and eventually connect everything. But in this video, we're just going to be focusing on how to bring these elements together to create a workable UI for us with tabs. Okay, so right now, what I'm going to do is break apart this into separate functions, and my dog is barking. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So what I want to do is break this into a function just so that it's a little bit easier to see what we're doing. So I'm going to define rigging steps UI there, and then what I would do is call this function inside of here. So it should go through the process and create that window, so we don't have anything different yet. Let me close these out for now so that way they're not confusing. Okay, so I have that, and then let's take a look at doing that for this one too. So I'm gonna copy this out. Yeah, this is the default selection. So let's copy all of this and bring it into here, and we'll create our own function for this. So let's define default selection UI, and that should be together. And then I'll paste all that in here. So one issue that I already see that's going to happen is that I have the show window here, so I need to remove it from that function here and actually stick it outside of the function inside of there. And then I am going to call this function over here before the show UI. And if I try to run this, it will likely break and not give us an expected result. You can see it tries to fit it all inside of that one UI here. So what we can do is set up a ability here where we're going to say mc.set parent, and we're going to go up one level. So it kind of brings it right underneath. Obviously we want it in a tab, but right now we just have it in the UI. So what we're doing is checking if the window exists. If it does, delete it. Then we go in and create the window. We create a column layout. The first thing in the column layout is going to be the UI elements. And then for the rigging, then we go up a level because we were inside of this column layout. And then we create the default selection UI. And then I think this column layout will actually move that into the, actually, we'll keep it there, yeah. And then let's start working on the tab layout now that we have enough. We're going to create a variable for this. We'll call it tabs is equal to mc.tab layout. And then our first tab is going to be this one. So our rigging steps tab is going to equal that column layout. And then after we've done that, we're going to create another column layout. This time we're going to call it default selection, or let's just call it defaults tab. And then down here, so if we do this, we kind of get something, but it's not doing exactly what we want. It gives us a tab. It calls it column layout, which is the ID for the column layout we're creating here, but it doesn't create the second layout. Basically what we have to do is call the tabs layout again at the end. And then we're going to call tabs as the layout that we are modifying. We're going to say edit equals true. Then we are going to say tab label. And let me double check if there's a casing there that is required. So we have the tab label capital L. Okay, so tab label, not plural, equals, and then we're going to open and close parentheses where we're going to put that, and then we're going to set an open close parentheses for each tab. Right now we only have 2, so we'll do that. And then what we're going to say is rigging steps tab, the variable that we created for the first one. We're going to say, we give it a label, it's equal to auto rig, and then default tabs is the next one, and that's going to be equal to defaults. And we have an error. Let's double check the syntax on that. Okay, it's separated by a comma, not an equals sign. So instead of equals, I just do comma, which makes sense because the equals is here for all of this. Okay, let's try that now. And we have an invalid syntax, which I'm sure is that one line. Tab label, edit equals true tabs. Let me pause and figure out what's going on. I'm sure I'm missing something simple. Okay, I think I found it. It's basically we open and close a tab here, or parentheses here, and by the end we open and close it there, but we're not closing the tab layout, so we need an additional parentheses. And now we have another error. Skeleton window layout not found. Scale window, scale window. Okay, give me a moment. I'm going to pause again. Okay, so the reason this is not working is because it's trying to find the tab layout. It should be at the same level. So each time we go into a layout, we need to jump out with the set parent. So here we have the column layout, and we jumped out of the column layout. But if we look at the rigging steps here, we create a grid layout and we stay inside of the grid layout. So if we paste the set parent there, we'll jump out of it. So we've created the tabs, we're inside of that. We created the column layout, we jump out of it here. We create the grid layout, we jump out of it there. And now here on this other grid layout that we have for the default section, we need to jump out of it as well. So we have a grid layout there, we jump out of it. And then also we've created another column layout. We need to be able to jump out of that. So because we've jumped out of each one of these layouts, we are now at the level of this tabs layout. So when we run it, we should have the setup here. We have the auto rig, and then we have the defaults. So that works well for us. Now, I want to take the information that we have here and add it to the rig layout tab. So we've created the window here. We need a text field group here, and we have the name that we called it, so that way we can access it in the future. So we have a column layout for the tab here. I could put it inside of there. I'm just going to put it inside of the rigging UI setup. So if I run this, you'll see that we have it there. It's not inside of the grid layout, but it is inside of the column layout. So that works out there. Something else that we could do, I guess, is change it from a tab layout and do kind of like a text field layout, and then switch it to be a part of the grid layout. So we'll put a text and then we'll put the name, which actually might be not a bad idea, but that can be organized at any point. Controls position, we probably want it together here with the bind skeleton. Here in bind skeleton, we're actually going to say, instead of bind skeleton, we're going to do create rig, because we're going to bind the skeleton within that step. So select the base head, and we can separate this into other steps, which would probably be a little bit better. So I'm going to do that between lessons, just clean this up, but we got the tabs. That's kind of the goal that we had here. And then I'm just going to add the control position as well. So let's go to the current, and then we have this here. And then inside of here, I'm gonna, at this point, just add it here. But what I'm going to do in between lessons is kind of organize the steps. So the first thing I want to do is get the character name, then create the skeleton, then position the joints, then set the control position, then I'll probably separate the set head as its own, and finally create rig. So it'll be like 5 or 6 steps, but I want to break it out into as simple steps as possible. That gives us options, and that way, actually let's kind of, I'll show you really quick. Basically, like step 1 would be this, and then I'll put a, let's see if we just stick this over here. And then it would be step 2. I'm not going to like the way this lays it out because it kind of crunches it there. But it's kind of the idea. So what I can do is maybe do a text field. That's the character name. There's not going to be any label here, but we'll say character name. So that way it gives you the idea of creating the name. So let's say input character name here. Let's see what that looks like. That works. So we can have something like that. And then we would do the, I know that I said I wasn't going to do it, but might as well. So we are in the grid layout here. So then we do step 3 is going to position the joints. Step 4, we'll set MC.text, maybe inside of each name. So step 4 is going to be the control positions. Let me see if I just take this, what it's going to look like at this point. So I missed the whole second one because of the size of the grid layout, which is not ideal, but let's keep that there for the moment. And then we're going to have another text. After that, that is going to be here. This is going to be step 5. And then we'll have another text, which basically will say, select base head. Then step 6 is going to be the create rig. There we go. So we have the 6 steps, I think, with the control position and the character name. I'm going to do something slightly different to make it work. So what I'm going to do is inside of each one of those. So let's find that. So we have the character name here. And what I'm going to do is create a row layout. And number of columns is going to be equal to 2. And because we created a row layout there, we have to set the parent. And that's just going to be 1 level up. Okay, so we have the text field, and so we can do that, and then we'll add a text. And then we'll say the label is equal to character name. Let's see what that looks like. It should probably be better. And I misspelled heroes. There we go. There we go. And then with the grid layout, I want it to be a width and a row layout. I want to set up the width and height. So let's see. Command documentation for this. If we have a column width, so we can set what each one individually. Width, so I can do the whole thing, and that's what I'm going to do for now. We can define it individually, which could be beneficial in the future, but I am just going to do the whole thing as the width. So W equals 200. And that kind of set it up, but it's not quite what I want. So let's go to each one individually. So we have the window here and column width. Let's set that up rather than defining each one, but if not, column width 1 and column width 2. That could do each, column width 2. We'll just do column width right now, see if that gives us a better result. So we have the row layout, column width, and we have 2 columns, so each one's going to be 100. Okay, it's expecting 2, so let's put it inside of parentheses. Do 100 comma 100. It's kind of staying the same, so I'm just not going to worry about it. There we go. And then we're basically going to set up the row layout again, but for the position of the controller. So we need that row layout with 2 columns. Then we need the set parent. We're also going to need a text field, or not text field, but a text. And the label is going to be equal to control position. And then with the float field, let's see if we take out the label here, what we're looking like. And that looks okay, except that this is kind of a little bit too short. Let's see if we can, let's try the column width again, but it's likely not going to be work. This time it's going to be 50 comma, actually 100 comma 100. And I have to make sure that I have an equal sign here. That doesn't adjust it. Let's see if we can adjust the size of the infield group. So let's search for width, and we have a column width for the infield group and a width value. Let's try with the width value first. So that the infield group, we have these values here, and then just say comma w equals 100. Actually, it's probably 50, but it should be. And that is too little, actually. Yeah, 100. We end up getting that cropped off. So let's try to do them individually. And we have CW2 sets the width of both columns, ignored if not exactly 2 columns. Okay, so we'll try that. CW2. CW2. Now we'll do comma 100. Actually, it should be 50 and 50 this time. There we go. That fits. That looks good. Yeah. So we have that. We have that. Position joints, create rig, and then the only other thing is that I have the clear scene. And what I'm going to do for that, because that's not going to be something that I have in the final tool, I'm just going to stick it all the way in the bottom. So let's do the clear scene button here. And then if we jump up over here, I'm going to do it before we set the last parent. Let's see. Didn't like that. Oh, because it's probably over here. We have it on clear scene over there. So I want it at the end, but here. There we go. So we have the clear scene. This is just mostly a tool right now while we're working on the project, but that gives us a layout that we can work with. And I might do some tiny tweaking to make this look a little bit better between sections, but that's the general idea. Maybe I'll add some spacers or something, I don't know. But this is how you end up with the default layouts, and then I did spend some time cleaning up the layout to work for the scene that we are building with the current rig. So let's save this so that I don't lose it. So with the auto rig startup, right now it's not going to work, but we will set it up to connect everything in the next video. So right now, everything's kind of separate in separate files. We have the default selections, we have the face skeleton, and then we have the auto rig setup that we have right now. So we need to kind of merge all of these together and put it into one functional tool. All right, so we'll leave it here. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.